Hello, welcome to Monday's Hotline Live with Record Sport. My name is Daniel Comm. Delighted to be joined back from his holidays by our part-time correspondent, the one and only Keith Jackson. Keith, how are you?
Bonjour, mon ami. Ça va? Ça va bien? Et toi?
Ça va bien, merci.
I've just gone totally French now.
We're also joined by the one and only Scott McDermott. Scott, how's it going?
Hello there. You all right, Daniel?
It's
Hello,
good to see you
China.
both. Anyone that watched the Hotline last night will have seen me at the end of the show talking to myself. So it's lovely. It's lovely to see you both tonight. But your holiday
which is actually not an unusual occurrence for you, Dan.
Usually there's not people watching.
Great break. I was hadn't had a weekend in Paris for a few years. Was told that it might be in decline. Utter nonsense. Place is sensational. So, yep, superb.
Nice one.
Magnifique.
You'll be in the perfect mood then to talk about Scottish football, I imagine. Later on the show, Scott,
By the way, I saw the Snyder that you did.
Keith, you're breaking up.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah.
Don't think of these eyes. I might be on holiday having a wee break. I keep a close eye on you. That's an outrage, by the way.
Who's done that? That's
an outrage.
That's that producer Henrik, I reckon.
It's an outrage, and I'm coming for you.
That's bang out of order. I don't know who's done that. And
we Scotty, don't think I didn't hear you clubbing me as well. That's better than his normal get up.
Yeah, Hotline Live in Paris, eh?
I don't worry about it. I do my research.
I don't know who did that. Sorry about that. It's weird.
Outrage.
Later in the show, Scott, you did a piece today with Peterborough legend Barry Fry on Rangers defender Manny Fernandez. It's a brilliant read for Rangers fans, but I guess for everyone. We'll definitely come to that. But Keith, I think maybe the best place for us to start, given Celtic's match against Auchinleck Talbot last night, was absolute torture. It's 1 year this week.
A good one to miss, I hear.
Oh my God. It was 1 year this week since Celtic sold Kyogo, and they're still waiting. Celtic fans are still waiting on a replacement.
Yeah, and they tried to get Kyogo to be that replacement. That didn't work. We are hearing that there's been a lot of links with David Datro Fofana at Chelsea. I find that strange, and the reason being for that, Dan, if you recall, at the end of the transfer window in the summer, there was speculation on the last day of the window, on transfer deadline day, that Celtic were in, and that ultimately the player chose to go to Charlton on loan rather than go to Celtic, and he was roundly kind of criticised for it. After the window shut, there were sources inside Celtic who were reaching out, and they were trying to plant a very different narrative, that it was actually Celtic who, at the end of the day, looked into the boys' background, found something that they weren't happy with, and they pulled out. Now, why they didn't get that message out on deadline day, I don't know. It's a club which is malfunctioning and not being run properly. Now, whether that's right, wrong, who knows? But it would surprise you then if Celtic suddenly thought, well, see all that stuff that we found out that we didn't like, we'll just ignore that now because we are so desperate. We'll just go for it anyway. So the suggestion seems to be that I don't know how real Celtic's interest is in Fofana, and the suggestion we heard today was he's actually not on a list. Mohamed Bamba, again, same. Lots of speculation. I think he's been bombed out by Lorient, a striker that doesn't appear to score goals.
1 in 20 this season.
Yeah, again, suggestions from inside Celtic that he is not a serious option for them. So there's three no's: Kyogo, Fofana, Bamba, potentially.
And then Keith, I'll just throw in at the end that Callum Wilson, who West Ham have said today, he's going nowhere.
On that.
Scored the winner of the weekend.
Won't be letting him go. You can add Franko Kovacevic into that, who is, I think, thrashing out the deal with Ferencváros, Scott. Yep. Callum Wilson, obviously West Ham U-turn. And then this really curious one, and I don't know whether I want to believe this is true just because it would sum it all up, just how poorly Celtic are functioning in this transfer window, or if it's just too ridiculous. But the suggestion that Celtic have tried to get Joe Pirro out of Leeds United on loan for the second half of the season, despite the fact that the guys that run Leeds United are busy plotting the future for Rangers. Yeah, that's right. Just come and take our £10 million striker. Good luck for the rest of the season, boys. If that is the case, and it's what we're hearing from down south is that there has been an inquiry. Celtic made an inquiry. No formal offer. Didn't get much off the ground. But apparently because Leeds United just laughed it out of town. As you would.
As you would, probably.
If that is true, and if Celtic have even had a conversation about it, it just shows you how far off the real world that they're existing in right now. That whatever this leadership looks like at the club is living in a different planet. Because that's just embarrassing. And people are laughing about it down the road in England, saying, well, it's just crazy. What did they think? There's more chance of Leeds United on the last day of the window saying, here, give them to Rangers. Rangers are still needing a striker. Just do that deal.
Do you know? Go on, Scott, sorry.
I was just going to say, but and I know that all sounds ridiculous, but that seems to be where Celtic are at the moment. Even when you listen to Martin O'Neill's interview post-match yesterday.
That was worrying for me, Scott. I'm glad you brought it up. I think he looks exasperated.
Yeah, I agree. He looks also... exasperated is a good word. I mean, bemused as well as to what's actually going on above him. And look, we all love Martin O'Neill and he's great character. But he's kind of trying to make light of the situation. He's trying to make kind of wisecracks, almost taking us off in the blow for Celtic fans. But in a way, it's making it worse because it is becoming a laughing stock now. And I mean, they have to get guys in. We know that. We've discussed it so often on here. We also know he was at Firth Park watching Motherwell's last game with Mark Fotheringham. No, you'd be amazed if it's no Maswanisi they're looking at. Whether that's an option for them, I'm not sure. I mean, he's not an out-and-out striker. Maswanisi can play through the middle, but I would suggest he's maybe more suited to a wide position, making those runs in field. But as I said on here last week, Celtic being in this state of flux that they're in at the moment, I think they have to look on their own doorstep for players, guys that they know can come in. That's why I said on here last week about Kieran Bowie. I don't understand why Celtic aren't going in, with the money they've got in the bank and just going and bidding whatever it's going to take to get Kieran Bowie to Parkhead. I think his profile, his age, the form he's in, to me, it's a no-brainer for Celtic in this current situation where it seems as if there's no recruitment strategy, there's no sporting director, there's no guy organising it all, looking at players. Martin O'Neill said himself, it's literally just guys handing him names and making him watch clips. If that's the length you're having to go and get somebody who's on your doorstep who you pretty much guaranteed they will score goals. And I put Bowie and probably Maswanisi into that category. So I wouldn't be surprised if the longer the window goes, those two names come up again, because you're right, as you said at the start, it's getting beyond a joke now.
Well, the problem for me here, Scott, is, and I did see you, it was easy to listen. I'm not saying that I'm seeing something that nobody else is. Anybody that looked at Martin O'Neill's kind of interviews and the press conference after the game last night, maybe even ahead of it, can see a kind of shift in his demeanour, I think. And I said previously that, this wasn't going to be the sort of same as the first interim period, which was like a sepia-toned walk down memory lane, lap of honour, whatever you want to call it, just to come in and hold the fort for a while. Martin O'Neill, from now until May, is Celtic's manager. He's Celtic's head of recruitment. He's Celtic's chief scout. He's the guy that's fronting up, in terms of PR. How many jobs do you want to give a 73-year-old man?
That's what I was going. That's not right, Jacko. I mean,
it's extraordinary. But what would concern me is just say Martin O'Neill. And by the way, it's not as if he's starting out in the game. It's not as if he needs this. I'm sure he wants to, and he's desperate to do what he feels is in Celtic's best interest, to because out of a sense of duty. I'm not sure how often you can keep poking the guy in the ribs and expecting him just to do all these jobs. What would happen if Martin O'Neill turns around tomorrow and says, "Do you know what, guys? Ram it. You're not helping. I'm getting no help. I'm the guy that ultimately has to go out here and carry the can for this. You're not helping. You're not backing me up. You've not got your ducks in a row. Here we are, 19th of January. You still haven't even looked like delivering me a striker." And I did say, well, it was over a week ago now, Dan, you were questioning the transfer window, and I said, first things first, Daniel, you would say, in normal circumstances, there's 3 weeks of the window still to go. Calm down. Sit down, calm down. Here we are, but I had the sort of rider to that, but this is Celtic, and I was saying similar stuff towards the end of the summer window, and look how that turned out. So it was already a concern when there was still 3 weeks to go. And here we are, what is it, 19th of January?
Yep.
Less than a fortnight. It's becoming a real cause for concern. And by the way, that's before we even, take account of the fact that Celtic have to go to Tynecastle in just a few days from now for a game of potentially enormous significance in terms of this year's title. It's astonishingly poor.
It almost feels disrespectful, I think, towards Martin.
Scott, I agree.
It's probably the first time I thought about it watching the Auchinleck game. Seeing him standing in that dugout at Rugby Park, and I know we're in different times. Obviously, we get that, different finances, etc. But I'm looking and thinking, this is a guy that's watched Henrik Larsson, Chris Sutton, Lubo Moravcik, Stan Petrov, and even when he's working down south, at Villa and stuff like that, the top players, Republic Island manager, he's standing there yesterday watching, with all due respect, Johnny Kenny and Balikwisha, struggling to beat Auchinleck, struggling to beat a part-time team in the Scottish Cup. And that's what I mean, just with you think of the board and the owners and that. No, they owe it to him. He's dug them out a hole by taking this.
Absolutely correct.
They're lucky. They should think of themselves fortunate that they've got a guy, he has status and has stand in the game, has experience, that he can come in on an interim basis. We've seen earlier on in the season when Rangers get rid of Russell Martin, they didn't really have anybody to turn to like Martin O'Neill. It was Stephen Smith for a game. Another game that Rangers drop points before they get Danny Rowe in the door. And that's not a slight on Stevie Smith at all, but that was the predicament they were in. Celtic are lucky to have a guy like O'Neill who can come in. But as you said, Jacko, to put him out there every week, and bear in mind he's doing 2 or 3 press conferences a week at the minute because of the schedule of the games and stuff. To put him up like that and have to answer these constant questions about recruitment and the lack of bodies coming in, and specifically the lack of a striker to help them, it's now, I think it is now bordering on disrespect.
It's a brass neck, really. But we've got plenty of comments coming in, and if you're watching at home, you want to get involved in the conversation, please do so. A lot of the comments agreeing with the sentiment that you guys put across. Green Machine says Martin might walk away if the transfer window is a no-go and leave it to Maloney. A couple of people not agreeing with your Bowie shout, Scott. Thomas says, don't be ridiculous. Bowie's not the answer, and he's not worth anywhere near $6.5 million. He says Bowie, they're not going for Bowie because he's no better than Iheanacho and Kenny. It's about quality. If Kenny was in Hibs 11, he would score as much. I would definitely take issue with that. Paul says, I've never been as scunnered with Celtic as I am at this time. Nicholson and his cohorts have a complete inability to get deals over the line. It's beyond a joke. Now their incompetence. Scotland the Brave says Celtic will put a loan offer in for an unknown and bid for I always struggle to say his name, Mawanise. And give it the old we were close, watch this space. It's beyond a joke. They're beating themselves. Christo says Mawanise will be in the door by Wednesday, medical booked. I think that might be wishful thinking. But Celtic fans, you said it's beyond a joke. It's not even.
But hold on, Dan. See, even if that was correct, see, even if who's Chris has got an insider that's involved in the deal and knows this to be totally true, right? That's fine. I'm prepared to go on that just for the sake of the argument here. If that's correct, and Maswinisi pitches up at Celtic Park next week, why? Why is it taking
Aye.
all this time, 3 weeks into the transfer window, to get that deal done? A deal that's right in front of you, a deal that's in your face, a deal that should be the easiest thing to do and should have been lined up, if that's the case, on the 1st of January. Celtic, unless somebody in that boardroom isn't paying attention, Celtic are in the middle of a dogfight for this season's title. And they need all the help they can get, and they needed it 3 weeks ago. Now, Martin O'Neill continues to churn out one after the next. But his ability to do that and to squeeze every last ounce at what he's got is keeping Celtic in contention. And he's already had to do it once this season. And when he left, everything looked pretty good. He'd got them back into, back onto Hearts' coattails at the top of the league. He'd knocked Rangers out of the League Cup semi-final to present Wilfred Nancy with 90 minutes away from the first silverware of the season. And he went to Feyenoord and turned them over to fire new life into Celtic's hopes in the Europa League. He then turns his back for 5 minutes. Wilfred Nancy takes a wrecking ball at it all, and here he is again. And he's having to build it up from the bottom again, and nobody's giving him help. So if Maswinisi is the guy that Celtic think would help, why was he not done 3 weeks ago? There is no... Celtic have got the money. Motherwell are just, unfortunately for them, in the situation, if they can make a real good profit, they have to do the deal. So why was it not done? Why are we waiting now? Why is it next week?
Jacko, if clubs are doing their jobs properly, the top clubs in Scotland, and at the moment I mean Celtic, Rangers and Hearts, they should have scouting reports on Tawanda Maswinisi on their desk already for this season. If a guy... How many
scouting reports do you need, Scott? The guy's been turning it on week in, week out against the same opposition that he would be playing against in a Celtic shirt. Exactly. It's a no-brainer.
If a guy at Motherwell scoring that amount of goals and performing that well, knowing he's getting a lot of plaudits, a lot of coverage, it would just be a basic. I don't doubt for a minute that Rangers will have scouting reports on Maswinisi already. They've got to have. I don't doubt for a minute Maswinisi will have been flagged up by Tony Bloom's Jamestown. Now, because of the nuances of Jamestown, maybe he's flagging up on it and he's no somebody that Hearts would go for. We know that Jamestown are obviously very, very specific on data, but he's definitely a name that will be known to them. He has to be. So even Celtic, listen, if Martin O'Neill or Matt Foderingham wanted to go and have a look at him in the flesh the other week, then fair enough. I can get that. You want to see players with your own eyes, but he's not just turned up in Scottish football. He's been here a while. He's been scoring goals for a while. They must know about him. So as Keith says, there are absolutely no excuse. If you think he's the guy that can make you better, and I'm not even talking about him as Celtic's main striker, no, the main replacement.
But just an option.
Just an option for them to come in and give them a different dimension up front. A guy that can play right across the front line, either side or through the middle. It should have been done, but that should have just been the simplest deal to do. And that's with all due respect to Motherwell, he's got a contract for another couple of years. I think they're well within their rights to try and get as much money as they can for them. But Celtic in their current predicament and with the finances they've got behind them, that should be an easy deal for them to do if they want to do it.
Do you know
that's a belt and braces deal, Scott, isn't it? That's just, do you know what? We know we've got work to do. Can we get that one done? Let's get that one done, and at least, right? Well, it increases our firepower and immediately for the short term, and then he might if he continues to star for Celtic the way he has been for Motherwell, then he might well become a regular starter. But in the meantime, while we're looking and assessing the other options for January, just get that one done. Get him in.
If nothing else, it gives the fans a lift.
Yeah,
it gives them a wee. They're crying out for somebody, crying out for a new face. You heard them at Rugby Park. I mean, when have you ever heard that at a Celtic game or any game? Fans actually singing, "Sign a player, sign a player." I mean, absolutely
any player.
It's desperate just to get anything. Pleading with the board, just going to do something, going to get somebody in for us to out about, just to give us a bit of optimism, a bit of hope, a bit of confidence that we can go and win this title. And yet the board they don't seem to be listening.
I wonder.
And again, Scott, it comes back to what you. Sorry, Dan. Last
No,
point
it's all
from
right.
me on this. It comes back to what Scott said. Martin O'Neill is being failed by the people that he is trying to bail out here, and I think that is disrespectful. And I wouldn't, if I was them. Honestly, I just said about poking him in the ribs with a stick. Don't keep doing it, Celtic, because this guy right now is your only chance of rescuing something from this season. What he's managed to do in terms of his win rate, which is like 100% domestically over the two stints, it's extraordinary, given what he's working with. And the very people that he's trying to bail out, that he's trying to protect their reputations, they're leaving him in this situation carrying a water pistol in a gunfight. It's extraordinary. And it cannot continue. And if it gets to the end of this month and Martin O'Neill feels that not enough effort was made to back him, I wonder what happens.
And that's the thing. Sorry, Daniel. I'm convinced that Celtic will get players in. I mean, they have to. They have to get.
I thought that the summer, Scott. I said exactly that.
Right, I think they have to get players in. But the problem is you see, we're now at the 19th of January. The longer it goes in the window, who are the players that they get? What's the standard of players they're getting? What's the fees they're going to need to pay? What are the circumstances with those players? We all know it might take every club. There's normally one or two that might go to the wire at the end of the window, and you might need to hold on for guys you really want. But there are no excuses in Celtic's current predicament for no getting a couple of guys in early. You look at what Rangers have done, getting the 3 guys in, sharpish, and I don't doubt Rangers will probably leave it till later on in the window because they'll have their eye on one or two that they might need to hold on for. But at least they've got some business done early. Hearts have done the same. So the longer it goes, as I say, I don't doubt they'll get people in, but I would question the standard of those players that they're going to get in by leaving it so late if they're going to add 2, 3, 4 at the death.
Well, also, as I said there, sorry, Dan. As I said, Scott, at what point didn't somebody be like, oh, look, you looking at our fixture schedule? Oh, Hearts at Tynecastle. Could do with beefing up ahead of that. It's 5 days away.
But you're talking about the same people that appointed Wilfred Nonsi when his first 3 games was Hearts Cup final and what was the other games at an Old Firm? Hearts Cup final and then with another big game, didn't they?
Roma.
Roma and the Europa.
And then Dundee United away.
They clearly don't. They're not that bothered about fixtures or time issues. They just do it at their own pace.
What I was going to say there, guys, was that Michelle Ange Balikwisha played last night, and I wonder if you're Motherwell, you look at him very, to be kind or no disrespect, very underwhelming again last night. Missed a couple of really good chances, subbed off late in the game. If you're Motherwell, do you go, all right, you want Mazwanisi? Okay, cool. You're not going to get him for a fraction of what you paid Balikwisha. I mean, I don't know. The whole thing's a shambles.
Daniel, but that's the thing. The guy that's put a comment in there saying, Kieran Bowie, rubbish, wouldn't he pay $6.5 million from him? But you don't mind paying $4.5 million for Balikwisha? When Balikwisha signed, it was, this guy's been brilliant in Belgium, a great signing. And I'm not talking just about Celtic here. That's the thing with the Old Firm clubs in particular. And a lot of their kind of fan base. As soon as a domestic player comes up that they might be in for, it's like he's not worth that.
Too much.
Aye, don't do the club that fee. He's not worth it. See, as soon as a fancy name comes up for abroad and he's played in France or Spain or Belgium, it's like, spend whatever it takes to get him. It's a mad, a ridiculous kind of theory. I'm not saying Kieran Bowie's worth £6.5 million at this point in time. And I'm not 100% sure you would need to pay that to Hibs to get him, even though that's the fee that's been bandied about. What I do know is his profile in terms of his age, his physicality, his potential, and his ability from what I've seen, and his kind of goal scoring record so far at Hibs. That tells me, it'd be a pretty good chance of being a success at Celtic in this league, because he'll get a lot more chances at Celtic than he's getting at Hibs and a good Celtic team. But like the guy said, there's a reluctance as soon as a big fee comes up for somebody in Scotland. No, can't he pay that to a Motherwell or a Hibs? But see if it's a Standard Liège or something who wants the cash, there seems to be a lot more acceptance to give them it.
Balak was just taking a bit of a beating, isn't he? He seems to be the poster boy for the sort of transfer activity at Celtic Park just now, or lack thereof, or certainly lack of quality.
He did look completely devoid of confidence last night as well.
Well, interesting, because I got a phone call from a Belgian journalist shortly after the summer transfer window, and he said, "Look, I'm trying to get in touch with Balakwisha. How do we just?" So I gave him some numbers. Said, "Look, try this." I said to him, "But I've got to tell you, it hasn't started off at a great pace here in Scottish football." And the guy says to me, "Well, I've got to tell you, he didn't end in a great pace in Belgian football either." So you wonder, if the journalists in Belgium were looking at this and they were scratching their head at the deal, just make it make sense. I keep saying it, but this is veering off into potentially catastrophic realms for Celtic, and they need to get the finger out. And they've got again a big opportunity. Hearts. This is going to be such a huge game. We all know what Hearts have been doing this season, but they're without their two best midfielders. Celtic have got an opportunity here. Do the board realise it? Have they done anything to help? If Maswanisi is an option, why wasn't he at Lennoxtown today? Yes, it's staggering.
It's staggering. We could talk about this all night, but we should probably move on to other stuff, guys. Moving across the city, Rangers Easy OK says, happy with the business we've done so far. Think we'll spend again, but with 3 already through the door, can now wait to see who's available the last week of the window, who need game time for the World Cup. It's a very different story at Rangers, Scott. And one player who's been tipped to make Rangers millions is Manny Fernandez. Tell us more.
He has. I just thought it'd be good to get somebody for Peterborough talking about Manny Fernandez. Just giving his story at Rangers so far. I mean, he obviously comes in the summer. No one really knew too much about him. He comes in for a fairly big fee. I think it was around £2.5 million. And Rangers fans were questioning the decision not to go and sign a young centre-back for Peterborough. And if you remember, at the time, it was quite strange actually, but even Peterborough fans were very vocal on social media saying, can't believe we've got this fee for this boy, and he wasn't good. Didn't actually play a lot of games. I think he maybe had 40 odd games in about 4 years for Peterborough, even though he was still a young player. And the start at Rangers obviously coincided with the kind of ill-fated Russell Martin reign, the criticism of Kevin Thelwell over recruitment in general, and he had a couple of injuries as well. But because of those injuries, he eventually got a chance under Danny Rowe. And you have to say, I mean, he's not the finished article by any stretch, Daniel, but I think he's been very good for Rangers and been a major positive for them in the last couple of months. I think he's pretty much nailed on one of those centre-back positions now. He's a major threat at set pieces. I think he's got 5 goals and 16 appearances so far. Obviously, the introduction of the set piece coach has helped, but he's such a big guy in the box, such a real danger for them, that he's become a really important player for them. So I spoke to Barry Fry. He'll know Barry Fry, how big a character he is. I mean, I think he's 80 years old now. He's still Peterborough's director of football. He loves a transfer deal. He still gets excited talking about transfer deals. And he was obviously involved in the Fernandez deal. And he's adamant Rangers get a good deal. He thinks Peterborough get a good deal, but Rangers get a good deal as well, because he's convinced in a few years, if this guy keeps going the way he's going, obviously clubs down south or abroad will start coming in for him.
I think he needs a bit of work, Scotty, doesn't he? If you're honest about it,
he's got rough edges, Jack. I think to be honest, Jack, I actually think his biggest, and I've said this, I think his biggest flaw, and it should actually be a simple thing to fix and eradicate. It's his just a lack of concentration at time, a lack of
casual.
Yeah, far too lackadaisical at times, and No, he's been caught out once or twice, and it was interesting. We spoke to him at a press conference not that long ago, and he actually said that himself. He was asking what Danny Rowe had said to him in terms of what he had to improve in his game, and that was the first thing he said. It was his focus during games, and I suppose that's a thing when you come from a Peterborough to a Rangers. It probably is one of the big things that you need to improve on, you need to work on, because at Ibrox, 50,000, big game, one lapse in concentration, it can cost you and it can kill you as a Rangers player, even in the eyes of the crowd. But I think the Rangers fans have taken to him now, and as you say, look, he's nowhere near the finished article yet. But when you think of the reaction,
that was the whole idea.
Yeah, when you think of the reaction in the summer, negative reaction, when you look at him now, the goals he's got, how big a threat he is. He's come through a game at Celtic Park, obviously, not a tough game, but he's come through, part of a Rangers team that's won there. 2 million, 2.5 million suddenly doesn't seem that much. If he keeps going, keeps improving, then Barry might be right. Rangers might get a profit.
Scott, you're starting to sound as if you think Kevin Thelwell had a cracking transfer window.
Between him and Sharmiti, I know. Sharmiti's
Asgard's coming good now as well.
It's interesting. I mean, Sharmiti still got a lot to do.
Yeah, he's never an £8 million striker. Let's get that right.
No, he's not. He's still got a lot to do. Even the chance, I think I said on here the other night, the chance he had at Pittodrie to put Rangers 2-0 up. It was a gilt-edged chance. He has to take chances like that. And you're trying to stick up from the 2 goals at Celtic would have done him the world of good. But that chance against Aberdeen are the ones that he's got to start taking every week for Rangers if he is going to be the number 1 striker. And I still think in this window, Rangers need to get a striker. So that kind of tells you that although Sharmiti has improved and he gets the 2 goals at Celtic Park, they still need more in the final third. And it's the same, by the way, the same with Asgard. He's shown flashes. That free kick on Friday night was sensational. I mean, absolutely sensational. And he's had 1 or 2 moments like that, but too few. He just hasn't done it in a Rangers jersey on a consistent basis yet. So there are wee signs, but still a lot of work for these guys to do.
That was the problem with the Rangers transfer window, and it's why Kevin Thelwell was rightly criticised, because what he was doing was effectively spending a lot of money, exorbitant amounts of cash on punts, a collection of punts, guys that have got some decent raw attributes that could become something. But Rangers Football Club, you don't spend £8 million on somebody that might improve, that might become the real deal.
You maybe sell them for £8 million.
Well, you know,
do you know what I mean? You get them for 1 or 2.
They downgraded. They downgraded their attacking options with Sharmiti because he was nowhere near ready for it. And they were losing an eager man and a Dessers at the same time. Lost Cherney. So no matter how this all transpires and works out, ludicrous decisions were made over that summer transfer window, and it led to Rangers being downgraded in every area of the pitch. Yep. Now, if Sharmiti does, as Scott said, he got his goals against Celtic, if he can get that confidence, if he starts taking these chances on a more regular basis, maybe there is something there. But maybe there is something there. Doesn't get £8 million worth of your face washed back in the transfer market. Yeah. He would need to start looking like he is the finished article before anybody's going to spend or give Rangers a profit return on Sharmiti. Fernandez was obviously a lower fee, and what I would say, and where I'd give them credit for that, is he's such a threat. He's almost impossible to defend against.
He's just so big. He's just giant.
It's incredible. So his goal return is good for a centre half, and it's probably only going to get better. They've got the set piece coach in. He's going to weigh in heavy between now and the end of the season, because if the delivery's right, as I said to you, it's almost impossible to defend against them. Look how silly he made Dimitar Mitrov look for Aberdeen. That's a goalkeeper jumping with his arms, which should give him the leverage, should give him the extra height. And big Fernandez was towering above him when he put that into the net.
See, in terms of the recruitment, Jack, and I'm not making excuses for the owners here, but I do think that was a big learning curve for the owners and Andrew Kavanagh, that summer recruitment. I think, take Shamiti as an example. From what I hear, I think Andrew Kavanagh and the new board were actually quite taken aback by the kind of level of criticism on Shamiti and the level of kind of scrutiny on him, even though it was 8 million. That sounds ridiculous. But I think privately they're now almost kind of holding their hands up and saying we can underestimated what's required as a Rangers player, especially as a Rangers centre forward, and also the kind of expectations of the supporters. I think they thought spending 8 million on Shamiti was fine, because he's a 20, 21-year-old Portuguese youth international who's been in the Premier League, on the periphery of the Everton squad. It's fine. He'll come in here, we'll develop him, and in time we'll eventually we'll get our money back, or we'll make a profit on him. No realising that you spend £8 million at Rangers in the Scottish League for a centre forward, that guy has to not just hit the ground, or has to come in and start scoring immediately. And
Scott, if you keep a Dessers or you keep a Eagleman, then that's your established guy. And obviously Rangers fans were screaming out for somebody to be an improvement on Dessers, but this wasn't it. So even while if the boy needs some coaching, if he needs some edges knocked off him, if he needs to grow a little bit, well, if you've got a guy that's probably going to bank you 25 to 30 goals leading the line in the meantime, that's okay. Yeah. But Rangers kind of got rid of everything and then brought in downgrades who weren't ready to make them a competitive side in this season's title race. Now, incredibly, in a very short space of time, here we are, start of the new year, and Rangers are very much title contenders. And we've said for a while now, Hearts, Celtic, Rangers, who gets the best work done in January is very probably going to have a real emerge from January as the favourites to go on and clinch this thing. And right now, Hearts have done some really smart business. Probably need to do more, because I think the Cammy Devlin injury is a real sickener for Derek McInnes and for Hearts. Because Cammy Devlin, for me, has probably been the outstanding midfielder, possibly the outstanding player in Scottish football this season. And I don't know if Jamestown's going to be able to replace that in what little time is left between now and the end of the window. I think that's a huge loss. And obviously, Benny Benny is suspended for the Celtic game, isn't he? Because stupid sending off. I think that's a real heavy blow for Hearts going into this game. This game has this enormous significance without the sort of beating heart, if you will, of Derek McInnes' midfield. Gives Celtic a big opportunity, I think.
Yeah, the difference is with Rangers recruitment, and I'm not saying these three players will be huge successes, or immediately can impress right away. However, I think Rangers believe that these three guys
improve the team.
They aren't like a lot of the summer. These guys are ready to go. No,
they're walking straight in. They're starters. Yeah,
Chukwueze might only be 22. But he's coming off the back of a season winning a title with Sturm Graz. He's played this season. He's played in Europe. He's ready. He's ready to go. Romans as well. Belgian under-21 international. Loads of games in Belgium's top flight. Obviously, he's got a wee knock at the minute, but in a couple of weeks he will be ready to go. And I would suggest, potentially going as the first choice left back ahead of McDermott, who's obviously still a few years younger than him. And obviously Skov Olsen speaks for itself, 26-year-old, the experience that he's got, the clubs he's been at. Rangers will feel these guys are ready to go for this running. And I think that's the massive difference. That's no signing a Shamiti in
a work in progress.
Sure about, or an Asgard who's done it in League One in England, but you're not quite sure about. This feels a bit different, and look, I might be proved wrong, but I think the club will feel that they've taken a different approach in January, an approach where the guys are ready to come in and make an impact on the running.
I think you're absolutely spot on. That is the key difference. The key differential here is Kevin Thelwell went into the market looking to make a punt, looking to punt American money on something that might hit the jackpot.
Yeah.
I think this is completely the opposite strategy. They're trying to minimise the risk factor involved with the signings this time. But it's complete polar opposite approach to what went on in the summer. And by the way, I'm hearing from inside Rangers, the chances are there will be at least 2 further additions made before the end of this window. Scott, I think you're probably right. I think they might have to wait until the dominoes fall elsewhere on certain deals, and it might be towards the end of the window. But they had identified 3 key areas of the team that needed strengthening, upgraded, guys that walk straight in and start. They got them for the 3 key areas, and it's now what else can they do? What else becomes available? And I believe that Rangers will be looking to sign at least 2 more players, just like the 3 we've just talked about, that they believe would go in, all things being equal, as starters.
I hate to bring this back to Celtic, but seeing Rangers sign a player that's Skov Olsen, 40 caps for Denmark, 8 goals, a £12 million winger, and I get I'm asking you to speculate here, but what is the issue with Celtic? Why is this happening? I mean, do they not have the contacts? They've got the money. I don't get it at all. I mean, why is it happening? Why are they not in for players like Skov Olsen?
The whole Celtic recruitment. Look, let's get it right. And Celtic's leadership model is completely busted. It's completely fractured.
Yep.
There's nobody in there. There's nobody even in the positions now. And this has been a gradual slide to get into this state over a period of time. When you decide, as we started the programme, you talking about Kyogo, when you decide 12 months ago you're going to take the money and sell Kyogo midway through a season, you better have somebody lined up to come in the door the next day, and somebody that makes the team better. Because if you don't do that, you're failing in your responsibilities and your duties. And from that moment, Celtic have been running around or jogging around in the transfer market with their hair on fire. No plan, no cohesion, no clear strategy of what it is they're trying to achieve. And now they're over recent weeks, when it's sort of a hit peak kind of panic stations, they've been running around, in the market looking for, talking about, or certainly it's longer than that, over this period where they've been returning to guys that once did a decent job, Kyogo included in that. But everywhere they turn in this transfer window, possible deals, potential targets are falling over. And that's what happens when you're scrambling around desperately, during a transfer window, when all these things should have been put in place, structured to have the button pressed on them at the start of this window. And now anything they get is going to look as if this is just a panic stations. Who knows? They might pull a massive rabbit out the hat because they owe it to Martin O'Neill. And Martin O'Neill, as we said previously, his sort of MO during his time, if you pardon the pun, at Celtic, first time around, was find a player who is absolute proven quality at the top level, but maybe he's just having a hard moment in his career. And whether that was a Chris Sutton or a John Hartson, Celtic were able to do that, and they had to pay big bucks to get it done, which is a problem this time around. But these were players that Martin O'Neill knew. Put him into my dressing room, I'll make him feel better about himself. What player are you going to get? So can Martin O'Neill persuade Celtic to go after a guy of a similar profile to a Hartson or a Sutton? Because if he can, it might just answer all the question marks. It might be enough to get Celtic over the finishing line this season, but it won't address the structural issues which remain so very evident from the outside.
See, in terms of the structural issues, Jacko, I mean, how's that been allowed to happen? Do you think there's an element of complacency to it? No, we all know what happened with Brendan Rodgers, and the Wilfred Nancy experiment was a disaster. But for the stuff that structure behind the manager, in terms of a recruitment department and scouting, that should have all still been in place, really irrespective of the manager or what manager might come in. But it feels for the outside as if No, are Celtic, are they shocked at what Hearts have done? No, is that taking them by surprise? Are they shocked that Rangers have somehow managed to get themselves back in a title race? Because let's be honest, at one stage in the season, Rangers were sitting at 8th, 13 points off it. Everybody had completely written them off. I just wonder if Celtic have almost been guilty of just being a bit complacent, thinking Rangers
massively complacent, Scott. Massively complacent.
It's got to be.
I can't believe the time has gone that quickly, guys. But just before we finish, I feel like it's relevant to the Hotline Live. Did you see AFCON last night? Scotland's World Cup opponents, Morocco, in the final. Did you see it, Scott?
I've only seen wee snippets, Daniel. I mean, I've also seen all the stuff on social media, the video clips, and obviously the story of the game. Absolute chaos.
So I know you were travelling, Keith, last night when this game was on. For anyone that hasn't seen it as well, tight game, dying embers of the game. Morocco are given a very dubious penalty. The Senegal players walk off the pitch.
They've already had a goal chopped off that they felt was perfectly legitimate and should have stood.
They had a goal chopped off. They try and walk off the pitch. Their fans are trying to get on the pitch to prevent Morocco from taking the penalty. Eventually, when it is taken, Brahim Diaz Panenka's it right into the goalkeeper's arms. Although it was really weird because
that must be deliberate though, Daniel.
I was going to say that no Senegal players.
He's denied that, Scott, today. He's absolutely denied that. He's taking a flamethrower suggestions that
No Senegal players.
What I noticed, that's exactly it, Dan. It was weird, wasn't it? The keeper didn't move. It's almost like he knew that it was a Panenka that was coming, and the Senegal players didn't celebrate it. But he doesn't look there as if he's delighted with himself. There's Infantino, by the way. Shouldn't he be over in America taking his Peace Prize back off Trump?
This photo here, do you remember the bit in The Office where David Brent gets sacked and he's in the ostrich costume? He's having to post photos. That's what it looks like there. But I mean, Morocco are going to be very tough opponents. We know that, but hopefully
that's them just got up to number 8 in the rankings. By the way, so just how's your luck, Scotland?
But Eagleman's done his cruciate. Is that right? That's a body blow for him first and foremost. But if you got to think he'll probably miss the World Cup, that'd be a massive blow to him as well.
He probably will.
But you just know if he's fit for it, Scott, he's going to score against Scotland, don't you? Because that's just what happens.
That'll be his comeback game. Hat trick in his comeback.
Score a hat trick.
I wouldn't bet against it. As I say, time's really got away from us, guys. I think that more or less brings us to the end of Monday night's Hotline Live with Record Sport. Thanks again for all the comments. Absolutely first class. Scott, Keith, it's an absolute pleasure. Thanks very much.
Cheers, Daniel.
Welcome, Dan. Hopefully Infantino's on his way right now over to Washington to take back the prize.
Jacko, you watch what you're saying about the president. You need to get a visa to get into that country.
Oh, that's right. Well, to give him a prize, Scott. Give him another prize.
I don't want to get pulled up with immigration and all that before we begin, just because of some dodgy comments for you.
Visa denied. Stamp.
See, the thing is, we're joking, right? But see if you did show him a couple of bad comments, he wouldn't hesitate. He would just be like, "Nah, you're not getting in."
Jacko, I don't doubt it. I'm just banking on the fact that I don't think Donald Trump's watching Hotline Live in the West Wing right now.
Listen, they're pretty big now, Keith. I don't want to blow a trumpet. But
big deal, are you, Dan?
Nah, listen. On that note, thank you very much for watching at home. We'll be back at 6 p.m. tomorrow. Hope you can join us then. Cheers.